All right, I am back here with James. Why does it say live stream? I don't know if we're live streaming or not. All right, well, if we are, all right, cool.
Where's it going?
I don't think it is. I think it just like gave me the option of doing it.
Cool, man.
All right.
Well, it's good to see you.
Always good to see
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, it's good to see you.
Reason I want to talk today. So I went down to Imaging USA, right, which is the Professional Photographers of America National Conference down in Nashville, right, and it was a great experience. I like going down there for the networking. You know, there's my actually both my coaches were down there. I ended up meeting somebody else, and I'm connecting, with him. He's out on Long Island, and amazing photographer. But the most beneficial part of that whole thing, first of all, I was down there Saturday night, Sunday night, Monday night. Well, it just so happened it was like the first week of playoffs. So I had playoff game Saturday night, playoff game Sunday night, and then playoff game Monday night. It was awesome. So every night I had just got to go to the same sports bar and could just sit there and enjoy, right?
Yeah.
And so the last night, I'm sitting there, and the guy sits next to me, and we just start talking. Dude's from Philly. He has a photography business, but it's exactly like what we've talked about, where he's like the one-stop shop, right? He's a wedding photographer. He DJs, but he has all these people. He does photo booths, and so you got your. It was just. You've got him. You call him, and you've got your professional wedding photographer or your wedding photography team. You've got your DJ, right? You've got your self-run photo booth that you can print photos right out. Take your photo and it prints it out, put it on a button, or just do a print, and you get it immediately, which is huge with weddings and events now. Mm-hmm. And there was something else he did. It's out of my mind right now, but. It was like he had just all these systems in place, and he had people that, took care of each section of it. And one of the big things that I took away from it was, first of all, he's where I want to get to as far as being able to let go and he was a DJ and he's a photographer. So he doesn't go out and necessarily do all the jobs, and he can't do the DJ. He can't be the DJ and he can't be the photographer at the same wedding, right? So both of them are very passionate to him, so he's got to let go of one of those, right? And so we talked a lot about that, and then he talked about how every lead that he talks to, he does a 15, 20-minute Zoom call with. And I'm like, how do you do that? Like, how do you have a lead come in and then you just get them on a Zoom call? He's like, well, I have, my assistant, does the initial contact. Right. And so lead comes in, she makes the initial call, gets a feel for the client, whether it's a good fit or not. If it's a good fit, we book a Zoom call. If it's not a good fit, we just send them a proposal. Kind of like, by sending you're doing your due diligence, you're giving them the option, right? And if the proposal comes back signed, awesome. All right. If not, great. It's just somebody who's not your client. But I thought, like, out of everything, like where I'm thinking of systems and thinking of handing something off, right? And I've thought of I thought of the social media thing of handing that off, or the shooting, handing that off. I really feel like this could be a good first step to hiring somebody to be that screen caller, right? That lead screener.
It's called a setter.
Setter. All right. Well.
Yeah. Yeah, it's called a setter. Yeah, they're going to screen everything, and then they're going to set your appointments for you. Yeah, so like they, we've talked about it before. Like, I don't like to hire experience. I like to train them and teach them or whatever. And so like what I would do if I were you, we have a much higher conversion rate with a setter, right? So like for us, that's just like a receptionist. Mm-hmm. Somebody calls, hey, my car's broken. Can you fix it? Oh, yeah, of course we can. I have a much higher conversion rate to get that appointment if it is a female setter than a male setter. They kind of diffuse the fear that somebody has when they're coming in for like an auto repair issue or something, you know, and the anxiety. And so the woman just kind of softens the place. And so if sexist as it may be, whatever, I mean, the data does, like, everything that we do in business is data driven. And so like we just have a better conversion rate factually that if it's a female than if it's a male. And so like what I would do, like, that to me, as you're saying that, like, that's easy to put that stuff together because you don't even have to own those other services. You could just kind of sub those out, you know? And so like you know, I'm thinking of 4 to 5 different DJs off the top of my head right now that I know. And so if there were conflicts, I'm booked on January 28th. Great. Well, this other one isn't, you know? And so for you, I would just begin to look for other DJs. So that way you don't have to go and buy the equipment. You don't have to manage that. If something goes wrong with them or whatever, all of a sudden you don't like them, you just don't send them the referrals anymore. You don't have to partner. You don't have to nothing.
No, and
you
that's
know,
the way he has it set up is you're all 1099s. They're all
yep. We work with this person here
Right.
at this time, you know, and you understand the day. And so then you could warm up your person on the back end. Hey, Pat, or hey, Josh, or hey, whoever, you know, I got this thing. Are you available on this day? I'm going to call this customer. How much is it?
Well, and the beauty of that too was, you know, planning a wedding. The less people you have to talk to, the easier it is to manage.
Way easier.
Right? You know, so
it's stressful to plan a wedding.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. And those wedding planners make insane money for doing exactly what we're describing. They just call their network of people.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. But yeah, no, I have somebody, actually, I just talked to somebody yesterday, this photographer. She just graduated college, young, you know, eager to, you know, she reached out to me about working with me and, you know, learning some stuff. And so I think this is a good first step, right? You know, hand something off and then let me focus my attention on the quality leads, you know, because number one, first of all, the whole Facebook and Instagram ads, it drives me nuts, man. Like, and I know I just don't do it right. Like I'm mature enough to realize that I'm doing something wrong but what I don't understand is when people fill out a form and then you call them and they just ghost you. Like, you spent like 30 seconds, like, putting your name in. You were obviously interested in this in some way. Respond to an email or pick up the phone.
Yeah.
Man. Like, and that's what I like.
Or they forget. They're like, oh, what did I fill out? What do you call it?
Oh,
You're like, wait a second.
Right.
So this is clearly more important to me than you,
Right.
you know, but we want to get them on a phone with a person as quick as possible, you know? And so like when we run ads, it's typically, and I've had different discussions with people through the years that are marketing only, and they'll say that this isn't the right way to do it. But we noticed that our cost per acquisition, and so how much money are we spending on marketing? And then that customer converts and comes in and spends money. That's our cost per acquisition, right? Like, I'm not interested in how many leads come in. I'm interested in like what hits the bank at the end of the day. And like our cost per acquisition, or, you know, customer acquisition cost, CAC, some people call it. Our CAC is much lower if we are running it only during days and times when there is a live agent to answer the phone, because now everything is like AI and forms and this and that. And so like in our industry, there's this large amount of like anxiety around it, and a form is not going to diminish that anxiety. If anything, it's going to make it worse, right? My car is broken. Okay, great. Fill out this lead form and we'll get back to you. No, my fucking car is broken now. I want to talk to somebody, you know? And so we run ads only when we are available, you know, throughout the day, whatever it is, Monday through Friday, we'll only run ads. And so like, one, we don't have a lot of these ads out floating around in the world, because every time somebody clicks on one of your ads, you're paying more money for them to click on the ad. And then they're not taking the action that you want them to take, which is to talk to a person, because nobody's available. And so for us, we only really run them during the day when we're open, when we can field that. You know, and then outside of that, it'll just be brand call, you know, no real call to action, but just brand building stuff. And so we'll kind of run 2 sets of ads somewhat simultaneously. And so some are on a schedule and they'll hit when I know I'm available. And then the other ones will hit say outside of business hours. Hey, we're great and come to us if you need us, but now you can at least schedule your appointment through a live form, and those drop too. And so for us, we had to begin. So like we spend a lot of time and energy and money through the years, especially as we have grown to multiple businesses and multiple shops, trying to turn everything and every behavior into a number, right? Because you have to be able to measure it to move it. And so like our main thing over the past, say, year and a half is like building our own internal like reporting CRM. And so that tracks everything. Like it is insane the amount of stuff that this thing tracks, and it tracks it all so that we can begin to bring it back to a dashboard that you could teach a 5-year-old when they should run the ads or when they shouldn't run the ads. And for us, it's like our CAC is better when it's during the day and a female answers the phone, period. Outside of that, they'll schedule. And if they schedule, well, what days of the week are we running ads where they typically fall off and don't come in? So we have like an acceptable rate of appointments that will no-show. Sometimes people find the appointment sooner. Sometimes people found just something else. Sometimes people had no intent of ever coming in and they didn't want to tell the person on the phone or whatever, or they scheduled the appointment and they didn't want to come in. So it's like, when do these things happen and why? And how do we tie that to an outside behavior or an outside ad or something? Because ads are expensive if you're letting them just kind of fly. You can't. An ad is something that you must manage, actively manage. And the best way for us to manage the ad is by using every touch point in the ad to determine what behavior we're getting. And so you can assimilate what I'm going to say next to really any industry, right? I'm selling a property, and I'm selling a property that is, it's an investment only property. And so if it's inexpensive, it's a couple $1 million property, right? And I want to sell this property so that I can buy another brick and mortar building that I can put one of our businesses into, because the rental income from the brick and mortar is going to be similar to what I'm netting from this commercial property. And then the second thing is that I'm going to be able to put a business in there so I can expand my team, give my team more wins, and then the business that's going to go in there can make more money. It's a smart investment for me. And so as we were building out the listing for this or whatever, and the property is online, one of the things that they didn't want to do is put something called cap rate. And cap rate is like how much percentage, right? Like what percentage is the investor going to get if he invests in the property? And so the realtor was like, no, I don't want cap rate in there. And I'm like, that's fucking crazy, because if we don't put cap, what is an investor looking for? He doesn't care. Like an investor isn't going to form an emotional response to what the building looks like. They want to know at the end of the day, how much paper is this going to put in my pocket? Right. And so they're like, look, we've got all these leads, we've got 18,000 impressions. Great. Well, where are they dropping, right? Where's your bounce? And so they're coming back and then they're leaving because you don't have, right? You don't have the cap on there. They're looking for what that is, because it's not even worth their time to go and look at it if they don't know what this thing is producing. And so how do we assimilate that to something else, right? And so like auto repair, we want somebody, or even more simplistic. We sell two things. We sell brooms and we sell mops, right? Our store, Faber and James, only sells brooms and mops. And so now I am going to look for things that somebody is going to use when they're looking for brooms and mops. So I know people that clean their house, people that want to clean their house, people that are OCD, people that are messy. Maybe they work outside and they're going to have dust and dirt and debris in their house and they're going to want their house clean, right? And so I know that's my audience. And so now I know that brooms and mops are two totally different things, right? One works wet and it's going to clean the floor, but you must have the broom first. But maybe they already have a mop and now they need a broom, right? And so now I got to break it down, and I can't have an ad that sells to brooms and mops at the same time, because it's two totally different, distinctly different needs within one audience. Make sense so far?
Makes sense.
Okay, perfect. So now my brooms, I want to create an ad. And so the best thing I got to do is I got to have something that identifies with the avatar that I'm trying to connect with as quick as possible, and that is an image, right? And so I must have an image of, no one gives a shit about my logo. They care about seeing a picture of a broom, because now they identify with it faster than they're going through the text in the ad. Then the ad must say, hey, look, I've got great brooms, right? And so now what I'm talking about here is click-through. I've identified with a person looking, right? I've gone into where they are, and then I have identified with them as quickly as possible. I've gotten a picture of a broom, and I've got a text that says we've got the best brooms with the best payment plans, and they're definitely available, and I can get it to you today, right away. And so now what happens is you start looking at different touch points, and you're like, all right, how many people are looking at this? That's impression share. And so impression share is going to tell me how many people saw the ad. And now I want to look for the next thing is what's called click through. And so if I have if I have people that are looking only for brooms, and I'm advertising brooms and mops, I may have a large impression share, but my click through is going to be low because it doesn't fucking make sense. Like, this guy's selling too many things at once. But now I've narrowed it down and I've got a strong ad. And so now my click through, right? I got a strong ad only for brooms. And so now my impression share is going to be high and my click-through is going to be high. So now they go back to the website. Now what are they doing? Now they land on a page that talks about cleaning supplies. They're going to leave. That's called my bounce, right? And so the way it works is that you have to have your audience, you have to have your avatar, right? The avatar you're trying to connect with, an image. You have to have the text in the ad explaining, hey, look, this is for brooms. Then they go back to a landing page that is only about why you have the best brooms and how you solve these problems that you know people have when they use brooms. Hey, ours are sweep up the floor better, they clean easier, whatever. And as they're reading this, boom, here's a pop-up. Hey, if you buy this broom today, I'll give you free shipping and $10 off or something. But you must buy it right now, right? And so that is kind of a near perfect ad. And so now the next thing is like, you need to see what they're doing on the site. Knowing bounce isn't enough. Well, I know that they're leaving when they scroll down because my form has 6 questions on it instead of 5. Because we know through many years of running ads that like every question that you ask in a form creates a higher, your bounce rate exponentially increases. And so like when you fill out these forms and it's like 10, 12 questions, you're like, this guy doesn't know what the fuck is going on. Like, this is insane. And so you want as few questions as possible. And then we know they're bouncing when they see the pop-up because the pop-up isn't configured right, or it's not enough money, or it's already expired and I haven't gone in and updated it or whatever. So for us, anytime that we run ads, it's a multifaceted thing. We need as much data behind the scenes and all the way down to when somebody is on our website, we have a video that will show and like it shows where they scrolled, what they did, not just with heat maps, but like literally every time someone comes to one of our websites, I can log every single session. And so I could pull up, I could say, all right, look, our bounce rate is 30%, and I want to pull up this 30%. We've got 3,000 hits, and so I've got 9,000 or 900, right? That's good math, right? Yeah, 900 bounces, right? That would be my 30%. Perfect. So I could pull up all 900 of these. And so now I want to start with the people that bounced as quick as possible. And I could watch a video of all of those if I wanted to and determine what the commonality was. Then I could track it back to what they typed into the internet or spoke into the internet to get to that ad that served up that ad that brought them back to the page. And so in some cases, it's a problem with my targeting, right? I had the wrong keywords that sent them to the wrong ad, or I'm in the wrong audience or whatever. And so like with running ads, it gets so expensive, but you must get as granular as possible so that you can break down everything from what they typed in to what ad they saw to what happened when they went on the site and what they did on the right. What did they see and what did they do? Did they take the action? And then from there, it is a process to define and refine, right? Like the last podcast we did, we talked about just customer interaction in person and on the phone and how you handle your technicians. A business is like a million of these different little touch points, you know, because otherwise you're wasting money at every turn. If a technician is standing around, I'm paying him, he's not working. Right. If my ads are out there serving people back to my site, not only am I paying for those, but now I'm looking less relevant in search and I'm going to suppress my own website accidentally rather than build it back up, because Google knows all the time what people are doing on your site. And so if people are constantly bouncing, it's going to see you as less relevant. Even if you have the best brooms, it's going to see you as less relevant and it's going to bring you down, you know, in your search. And so there's a million things that go into this, but you must know every touch point in a customer interaction.
Now, is that also with just when you're running ads, you can get that information, or will Google Analytics show you like your normal behavior?
Well, you can find that. Yeah, Google Search Console will be pretty rich, and that's free. You know, that'll be pretty data rich. That's good for like the average bear can use that. You know, but like if you're running a few $1,000s a month in ads, you know, like any one of our retail shops will run anywhere between like probably 2,500 to 5,000 in ads a month.
Wow.
And those are like, that is like freaking like that is dialed in, you know, and so like in January, February, an auto repair shop is going to be a little slower, and so we'll be closer to that maybe like $4,000 or $5,000 number in the middle of winter, you know, and part of that, it's not just all pay per click, like community ads and local newspapers and whatever, you know, whatever, but everything. Like even if you do a newspaper, how do you track who saw it and what action they took? Well, a QR code must go back to that landing page that explains that ad. You know, you want to make it as easy as possible, right? You want them to fall out of their bed and land in the slippers.
Right. And that's a tough thing about getting into the whole marketing thing is you really have to analyze, you have to think like your consumer, right? You have to think like your client, like not only what are they looking for, but what are they not looking for, right? There's a reason the landing page doesn't have a menu on it, right? It's got exactly, you don't want them to click anywhere else except that call to action button, right? You want them to take that next step. That's what I've learned, you know, a lot with, you know, not only, you know, learning about marketing, but teaching marketing as well, is it's that target market, that client avatar, that, you know, really dialing in who is your client and who is going to respond to your ads or your landing page or your call to action, things like that.
Yeah, we dial it right back. We can drill in so far as we know what device they're on, obviously at the time of day, and what they spoke into their phone or typed into their phone that brought them to an ad, and what ad was served up, and then they took the action in how long, and they came back to our site, and then what did they do on the site, and then we can really effectively pretty much understand why they left or why they took the action, you know, and then from there continuously refine and define what that audience is and, you know, what that ad should look like. And hey, when we just say that we have the best mops, or when we say that we just have the best brooms, our bounce rate, our click-through is lower. And so here we have to say that like ours clean the floor the best instead of just saying that they're the best. And then our click-through rating is actually much higher, right? Because like people think they're like, all right, well, if I run an ad, 100% of people or 80% of people that are going to click on it, and that's going to be great. The reality is like if you're around like 8-10% click-through rating on an ad, you are Michael Jordan of running ads. You know, and so the bar is pretty low, but it's hard to get to that, you know, and then from there, like how many do you convert when they're on your site? And then from there, now you've got a whole other level of complexity because now they have clicked and taken the action. And so it's not, well, here's our phone number and call, because you're going to lose them. They don't want to go to a different window. They need to just click a button and call. And so now they're going to click this button and they're going to call, and what happens on the phone. So then you have to track that with software again. Right. And so you have all these, right? They call. Now we're recording the call. And now we have a program that actually assesses like tonality and certain touch points and things that we're supposed to say on the phone call. And so when the call comes in, you've got someone that is trained to answer the phone, not just whoever was walking by the phone. Because all the ad does, if you do it right, all the ad does is it makes the phone ring.
Right.
Now you've got to have a trained person on the phone handling that up. That's your setter. Right. And so that goes back to the initial conversation. Like A, now we know how to get the phone to ring. B, now we've got the setter. What is the action that you want the setter to take? And what are the filters that you want? Right. You want them to just pull everybody in? Do you want them to build value in you? Of course. Right. You want them to have a date with that person on the phone and determine if they want to date that person again. The setter is determining if there is a second date or not. You know, people are like, well, I just, you know, I set up my Google listing and I get the phone to ring. Great. That's the way that works for your business. Right. Cool. You know, cool.
No, it's interesting because you're right. Like it is, And that's where I know what I do and I know what I say on the phone, but can somebody else pick up and do that? Because it was funny. I just saw this, online yesterday. If you're handing something off because you're not good at it, it's not going to get any better. It's just going to get messier, right?
Yeah.
I have to know what I'm looking for. I have to know what I'm doing in order to document it, create that, SOP so that somebody can follow it, and then I can see how it's, how that works out.
Yeah.
It's not all right, hey, just try to understand, right? It has to be more of a system, more direct, more finite.
But it makes it exponentially easier if you find somebody that just has that raw talent, and then you teach them the things that you need to teach them about that. If they're just naturally jovial and they naturally like helping people, it's going to make it so much easier for them to build value in you and your service. And then so like when we talk about all this marketing stuff, like the average person is not going to even understand half of what I just said, right? They're going to be like, this guy said a million words. I don't understand most of it. Just go hire a marketing company. But the problem is that like a lot of the marketing companies that I have found through the years sit and they open their mouth and they just stare at me, not understanding what I'm saying when I have that same conversation with them.
Which is not
good. And so you're paying all this money and the marketer will typically tell you, well, it just takes more time. Yeah. Right? Just stay in it, spend more money, and it just takes more time. And that is not the reality of it. Like you should be able to track what is happening out in the ethos at any point in time, all of the time. And you should know exactly what went wrong and what went right. The phone stopped ringing. Great. Let's start right at the beginning, right? Phone stopped ringing, impression share dropped. That means less people are looking for the service. It's not a problem with your business right now. Click-through rating is higher than ever, but people are just not looking for it right now, right? Swimming pool repair. Phone's not ringing. It's January, right? It's 3 degrees outside. Phone's not ringing. There's a problem with the ads. No, nobody wants that right now, right? Nobody wants that. And then we would easily be able to see that because your impression share is down, right? Less people are searching for that right now. It's not a problem with you. It's a problem with the market. The market is fucked up. It's freezing. No one is going in the pool,
It's true.
April, all of a sudden you get a first 70-degree day. All of a sudden now your impression share is way up, but your click-through is down. Great. It's because you haven't refreshed your ads. You're still talking about closing it up for the winter in your ad. You're not talking about opening your pool up, Okay, great. So now we've got ads that show us opening the pool and people swimming and people happy in their pool. Perfect. Now they're coming back to the website, but the website is still talking about closing the pool and winterization, And so now they're going to bounce again because they're not seeing what they want. Make sense?
100%.
It's insanely basic.
Yeah.
It is insanely basic. It really is insanely basic. It's just, it gets a little complex when you're trying to determine where that data comes from and what that looks like. And so for me, through the years, I have worked really, really hard to understand all of those touch points so that we don't waste that money, so that when we want to run ads in a different time of the year, when our impression share is lower, we spend more money to go out to a bigger audience or to make sure that our ads are out there more, because marketing is all about right person, right message, right time. And so you want to be out in front of them more. And so we increase our spend so that we're out there floating the bobber in the water a little bit more so that we can pull them back. And then from there, it's like, all right, well, we train somebody internally. And then after we train them internally, they begin to take over that system. And then you help them redevelop that system. And if you find people that are naturally gifted at that, they'll add to that system. And so like, that's how we have Devin that runs all of our marketing. And Devin has Northbound Media. She even has her own, marketing company now, all based on like all of these cool, like her natural creativity. I mean, she's really incredible. Like much like you guys think, that way, but like, she's somebody that is always wanting to just find new ways to get better. But it all comes back at the end of the day, like, what does the creative look like? She's phenomenal at that, better than I could ever be. And, and then her and her team are really incredible at managing that dashboard.
Right. But what's important about that is what to look for, right? What the data should look like. And when it doesn't look like that, you are knowledgeable enough, you've done this long enough to know what to correct.
Yeah. And so our dashboard will tell you now. So like the software that we built, it automatically will flag things. So like literally you walk in, and when I log in and I see my owner's dashboard, and so this is something we built, the program doesn't exist. When I walk in and I log in for the day, I'll pull up my dashboard, and one, it shows me every company, but it shows me alerts first. This is where you're losing money right away, right? Your total percent of loaded payroll is like 40% over here today, and it should only be 30%. And you've spent 11% on ads this week, and you're only supposed to be at like 8% because you have these other things. And so like it literally. So what I'm trying to do is what I'm effectively doing, not trying to do. What I'm effectively doing is creating one company that manages the other companies in a way that is similar to if I were in there watching all of those numbers all of the time. And the problem is that you run into sometimes is like wherever there is human input, you need to make sure it's the right human putting the number in. Mm-hmm. And so then, that was like the next thing. We had a company that was like stealing, and materials would come in, but then you couldn't track them going out the back door because the guy that was selling them out the back door was the same guy that was inputting the material numbers in inventory. And so like, all right, great. So how do we get around this? And how do we create a secondary level of like, so there's like all of these different things that happen when you're trying to, it's not easy. It's really, really, really hard. And sometimes you have to think like an asshole. Like, how would I so tomorrow, literally when I go in, one of our general managers and I, our goal tomorrow and through this week is to figure out now how to steal. Mm-hmm. Right. And so now we're going to try to break the system and figure out how to steal to close that gap. Because as you grow, what happens is like, as you grow, when we go into another shop, I'm like kind of like autistic with taking on another shop. I will only focus only on that new little baby and how to grow that baby. And I take my eye off of the last ball. And that was something that you really wanted to talk about. Like, how do you step back, and how do you step back too much? And so for me, I, through the years, have stepped back too much. And the second I do, something will get fucked up. Not every time, but like it has happened, And
it has to happen because for you to develop, this CRM and this program that you developed, and because you knew what the issue was. You knew that there was an issue that you couldn't be there and you couldn't have your eye on it.
Yeah. So when we want to grow these companies, we are effectively creating a company that will create other companies. And then how do I transfer that to someone without my level of knowledge and experience and not let it falter? Mm-hmm. And so a buyer, just like buying the commercial rental property that wants to see what the cap rate is, they're going to want to see what that is in this business. And how do they know that they're going to continue to make that? Well, with the rental property that I'm selling, it's because there's people living in there and there are leases, and the leases come in on the first of the month through ACH. If somebody defaults on the lease, then, you still have some recourse, but, the reality is the history is going to show that these people are in there. Well, now the business is, how do you take out my experience and my time and make that more, right? Because like I've taken the few 100,000 reps, right, with 10,000 hours. I could tell you I've been working on cars literally this is my 30th year working on cars. I was fixing cars before I could drive. How do you replicate that experience and give all of that insight and do it through ones and zeros? And so that's how we try to do it now. So I was like, well, I can't find anybody that can develop a computer program, so I'm going to learn how to develop this thing myself, And so like for a year, and I don't know how many hours, I have obsessively built this thing and broke it and built it and broke it and built it and broke it, so that as we get to the next, and let me tell you something, this thing has identified a bunch of like inefficiencies and things that we were doing right and wrong, and redundancies in the company, and in doing that, sometimes you had to have very difficult conversations that didn't work out well for somebody else, because it exposed ethical problems that people were having when they were smiling at you and saying nice things to you, and not doing something that was contrary to everybody else around them as a team. And so like the program has really helped us, But that program really, at the end of the day, is what ties all of the companies together. And that program and the real estate and the historical receipts and the people's loyalty to those companies is what some rich guy is going to pay for at the end of the day as you build a portfolio. Does that all make sense now? And so you've got everything in there, not only payroll data and bill data and revenue data, but you have, you know, personality data, you have a history, you have marketing data. Here is our recipe. Like, you've got all of that in there buttoned up, and the average business doesn't have, the average big business doesn't have that, never mind the average like small business. And so like, you really have to make sure that you, as you are growing, while what we have is excessive, you know, while what we have is very excessive, it's because we are building a very strong engine that we can continue to build upon. And throughout that process, we've taken things away so that we can add more and so on, because I really like to be in the businesses and I only have so much time and headspace. And so like, adding good people is great, but you know, sometimes, you know, somebody may think they're good and they're not the best. And how do you monitor that all the time without micromanaging them and making them feel less, you know? And for us, another thing is like, you want people to financially feel the wins with you. And sometimes when you're like, all right, well, I'll give you a piece of this, or I'll give you, you know, like you do this and I'll give you a percentage of this thing or whatever. If it's all right there in numbers and ones and zeros, it makes it easier for them to see what they have done right and where their opportunity is, and so that they know how to get to that next level. I know it's
really figured out how to take data, how to create data, or track things that aren't quantitative in a quantitative way.
Yeah,
qualitative data you've made it quantitative.
Everything has to be measured, and we've done that through successes and tuition, right? And so like, successes are basic, they're on the surface, you know, that's the shit people post online.
Right.
The tuition is the punch in the face that you took, right? You know, the tuition is the punch in the face. And so you take the punch and I'm like, all right, well, I know I need to move now. And so how do I move? Well, I build something into this right? Like, how did they manipulate the system, right? How did we not know this happened? How do we build in this fail-safe without making it seem like it's being micromanaged or having them spend this excessive amount of time entering more data? How do we make it easier to take out the human input? And so it's like, it's a pretty cool, like, I love it, but it's a pain. Like, it's really tough, you know, but you're solving problems all the time. Right. And somebody will say, well, you just got to have good people and whatever. Yeah, that all goes in it too, right? Like, you always assume everybody is good.
Right.
You know,
and that's a hard thing, right? It's hard to let go of somebody that you hire, because then it's a shot at you, right? Or you take it personally when you don't have to. But I mean, how many people have you hired and realized, they're not the right person?
I've been schemed and scammed every type of possible way, right? I used to have a girl she'd take the bank deposits and she kept a different deposit slip in her desk or in her car. She got like deposit slips from the bank. So when she would go to the bank, she would short the deposit. And so now the money's got to come from somewhere. And so then she would short vendors. And we had a longtime manager. He would run payroll and all of the numbers looked right in all of our spreadsheets. But then the problem was that he would just give himself a bonus every week, you know, and like taking it from other people's bonuses. And so there are a million problems that you have to solve along the way, because if your foundation is fucked up, it crumbles. And so that is why they call it tuition, because those are lessons that you must pay to learn. They're expensive, they're costly, they take headspace. And so how do we do this and how do we build this thing? And so, you know, we sit here and we talk about like, you know, primarily the failures. We don't talk about all of the people that like get all of these cool things and they're buying, you know, their homes and, you know, dream cars and going on vacations with their family and all of this like cool stuff because of these cool companies that we have built. We talk about the 1-star reviews. We don't talk about the 10, 20, 200 5-star reviews. We talk about the ones that somebody found a way to get to us. And then how do we respond instead of react? Well, we respond by closing that gap and just trying to look on like, all right, good. Like, this is a problem. This guy fucking stole $100,000 from us, right? Over however long. And he did this and he did that. Perfect. How do we close that gap so it does right? Obviously, on the certain perfect, close that motherfucker down now, right? Get rid of him. He's not a good dude. How do we make sure this doesn't happen again? Why did we take this guy on? Right? This is a company we took on this way. We were taking companies on this way 3 years ago, and we already don't do that. So we would never have that opportunity to do that again. And so it's just like, if somebody looks on the outside, they'd be like, this guy's fucking crazy, right? He like consolidates people, moves things around, whatever. But like, it's all based on numbers. It's all based on numbers. Right. Do the numbers make sense? And the numbers quantify behavior at the end of the day. And the behavior has to fit the business model, because the business model is built for a long-term goal. And if the numbers don't fit, something is wrong. Either the money isn't there, the morale isn't there, the culture isn't there. Like, if the numbers are fucked up every single time, something major is going to slip. And we've just built that through lots of years of tuition. You know, like I am confident in myself enough that I could care less what anybody thinks of me, or, you know, like, if you don't walk in these shoes, I don't, you know what I mean? If you don't know how to do what I do, there is no way that you could sit there and criticize how I do. Right? There is nobody ever that I have sat down with, that I have talked to, that was like, this guy doesn't know about business, right? This guy's faking it. This guy learned it from YouTube. You know, that has never happened.
Get that vibe.
That has never happened. And the reality is that, like, I heard this expression one time. Somebody was like, you lose 100,000 on your way to 1 million, you lose 200,000 on your way to 2 million, and so on and so forth, you know? And I don't know if that number is true or whatever, but like, you lose money along the way. And the reality is that, like, what you're going to have to do as you begin to hire these new people is understand that it is never going to get done exactly the way that you want it to. And every time it happens, you must respond, not react. And it's just like, what is your system of responding and not reacting? Is it to go ahead and scrap the person, or is it to make sure that they have the time, the tools, and the training that they need to be successful, right? And so, like, in any of these things, when they do something wrong, it's like, all right, first off, like, let's make sure that the customer is happy, right? Even if we totally screwed up, perfect, here's your money back, right? Let me make it right. But if making it right is only just by giving you your money back, perfect, I'll give you your money back. And these things, these refunds and stuff like that I talk about, those are like extreme. That doesn't happen a lot. Most people are very, very rational and reasonable. And so then from there, it's like, all right, well, why did this girl or guy or whoever you're going to get to take these and set these appointments, how did this not happen? How did this conversion not happen, right? What did they say? What did they do? How are you going to track that? Because if it's on their cell phone, one of the things that we've had is people would take leads to their cell phones, and the guy went and opened another shop outside of the shop that he opened with us and took all of the leads with him. No, now everything must come in to the company, and you must log these, and now the computer system logs them and whatever. And so it's like, it's a million things. It's a million ways.
Rule books are this thick. And,
oh my gosh, yeah.
Employee handbooks are this thick, because everything that's written in there, something's happened to force that to be written down.
If you're trying to just make an average small business, you don't need all this shit. Right? You're there, you're in the business, right? But then you own a job. You're there and you're watching this, and you know that Brianna answered the phone this way, or whoever, right? You know that this stuff happened, but as you're trying to scale and you're not involved in all of the touch points, like I look at like Jez. I look at Jez and like USA Hauling, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like that. They are a monstrous company. Could you imagine all of the fuckery that must have happened in that company for them to get to the point that they are at? Do you think that was all wins along the way? And those are such good people, you know? There's been so much shit that has happened in that company. I can only imagine, but they clearly have just been like, all right, well, this is how we pivot. This is how this happened. And they've got a good core team of people that, right. And so like, you know, I could only dream to build a company like that.
The less you guess. Right?
Yeah. The less you guess, you're just like, this is second nature. And now you have more people that are looking out for your best interests, and they're monitoring the systems. And so the system isn't just coming in and this is how we turn on the lights. And that's a system too. Right. But like, this is how we manage this business when we're not there. This is how we see what is happening with this company when we're not there. This is how we know that morale is down with this one shop or this profits. And we just call them profit centers, you know? And so sometimes it's cool. Sometimes it's like, all right, let's sit down with a pen and paper and figure this out.
Yep.
You know, it's really cool, man. But I think if you want to hire a setter, it's easy. Just make sure that you know what you want from them and how you're going to quantify that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And,
It's a million words for you.
This is awesome.
Yeah. I could see your head spinning.
There's a lot of ideas going on. There's a lot of things that you just said that I'm like, I've mentally written it down and I have this recording, and so I'm definitely going to be going back to this.
Yeah, we always have good conversations, buddy. I'm happy to come over anytime.
All right. Well, thanks again for tuning in to Shoot for Succession. James, always a pleasure, man. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, good to see you.
We'll talk soon.
Yeah, of course.
Buddy.